My childhood sweetheart is the heroine of a novel, but I'm the villainous supporting character. No matter how hard I tried, her gaze was slowly drawn to the male lead. When she left me behind for him yet again, I understood it was time for me to leave. I applied to the system to exit the world. Host. You have 1 month left, the little system helpfully reminded me. I nodded to show I understood. The food on the table had gone cold, and the cake had a birthday wish for me written on it. The person who had promised to spend every birthday with me had broken her promise. Lila and I grew up as childhood sweethearts and eventually became a couple. This was the first time she had ever missed my birthday. Lila said she had something very important to deal with, which was why she couldn't make it. I knew she had gone to be with the male lead. Things like this had been happening frequently lately. I knew I had lost the plot. Was the plot something I couldn't control? I silently dumped all the food into the trash can. I picked up the cake and started eating it by myself. The cream was sickeningly sweet, so much that it tasted bitter. It was the first time I had ever finished an entire large cake by myself. 3 in the morning, Lila came back. I kept my eyes closed, feeling her approach. She said, "I'm sorry. I came back late. I had something to take care of today. I'll definitely celebrate your birthday with you next time. Unfortunately, I wouldn't have a next birthday. I didn't say anything, just turned over, my back to her. A silent tension filled the air. I clutched my stomach, curled up in pain. Lila's anxious voice rang out. "Jake, what's wrong?" "I got a lecture from the doctor. You're a grown man. You know you have a bad stomach, and you eat a whole cake late at night. What were you thinking?" Knowing I was in the wrong, I sat there obediently with my head down. It won't happen again. I would never have the chance to eat a birthday cake again. Lila helped me walk out of the hospital. She suddenly stopped. "Did you eat the cake all by yourself because I didn't come back to celebrate with you? Why would you do that? Are you trying to make me feel bad on purpose?" "No," I answered quickly. "I told you I really had an emergency last night. You're a grown man. Why are you being so petty?" "Yeah, I know," I responded in a very calm tone, a complete departure from my previous loud, hysterical arguments. Lila was taken aback for a moment, looking at me with an unfamiliar gaze. After applying to leave the world, I was no longer controlled by the plot. I finally had my sanity back, instead of acting like a bitter, resentful man constantly fighting with Lila. I looked up. My reflection was in Lila's eyes, only me, but I knew her heart already held another person, the male lead, Noah. I was just a stumbling block in their love story. As Lila found herself unable to let go of Noah, I also found myself changing into someone else. I became irritable, suspicious, and overly possessive, but that wasn't the real me. The plot had turned me into a stranger. That was the persona the author had assigned to my character. The rift between Lila and me grew wider and wider. It wasn't until I hit my head hard and remembered I was a transmigrator, the villainous supporting character in a book, that I gradually woke up. "Lila, I feel a little tired. I want to go home." "Okay, let's go home," Lila said, clearly relieved. Lila and I had known each other since we were 3. We had been together for nearly 20 years. We were the most familiar presence in each other's lives. I thought we would spend the rest of our lives together, but now, the rest of our paths would be walked separately. I had been sick for the past 2 days, resting at home. Lila was very busy with work, but took time off to stay home with me. She had always been like that. If she wanted to be good to someone, she would hold them in the palm of her hand, so good that it was hard to refuse. Unfortunately, she was gradually transferring that kindness to someone else. Lila was usually bubbly and cute, but she was always strict with herself at work. She never brought her phone to meetings, but now she was constantly distracted. In just half an hour, she had picked up her phone no less than 5 times, a smile unconsciously appearing on her face. I stared at the scene a bit dazed. How long had it been? How long had it been since I had seen such a genuine smile from Lila? A bitterness spread through my heart. Actually, I couldn't blame Lila entirely. Ever since Noah appeared, my personality had changed drastically. I had argued with her countless times. The fact that she was still willing to stay in this house was already something. I slowly surveyed our entire home. From the smallest chopsticks to the largest appliances, Lila and I had picked everything out together. Back then, we were full of aspirations for our future life, decorating our little love nest with the greatest passion. But who would have thought that in just a few months of Noah's appearance, everything would change? I could tell Lila's mind wasn't on me. so I personally pushed her out the door. Go to work. I'm fine. She gave me a complicated look. I thought maybe she still liked me a tiny, tiny bit. The countdown to the end of my life was down to half a month. My body was visibly deteriorating. Lila noticed something was wrong and wanted to take me to the hospital for a checkup. I just brushed it off, saying my stomach was still upset from the cake and I couldn't eat much. I just needed to rest, and it would get better. She didn't say anything more. The moment she stepped out of the door, I could even feel her inner joy. It was because she was going to see Noah, wasn't it? I gave a self-deprecating smile. Even though I tried to convince myself that this was all fated, watching the person I loved deeply slowly fall for someone else while I was powerless was a sorrow that threatened to drown me. There wasn't much time left. I wanted to say a proper goodbye to this world. I went out with some cat food. There was a stray cat near our home. I had originally wanted to adopt it, but it was always very wary and unwilling to be kept, so I had to give up. I wouldn't have another chance to see it again. I wondered if it would miss me. I stroked it one last time, murmuring many things. The little cat seemed to sense something. It squatted by my feet, rubbing against me and meowing anxiously. I knew cats and dogs could sense when people were sick. It was warning me, but I knew even better that I couldn't be saved. Even if I went to the hospital, the doctors wouldn't find anything. Feeling the little creature's kindness, I curved my lips into a smile. Thank you. I'm fine. When there were only 8 days left, I could clearly feel my life force draining away. My strength was gradually leaving my body. I started coughing frequently, even coughing up blood. I kept all of this a secret. Lila's mind was not on me at all. She was out early and back late every day. Although we lived under the same roof, we hadn't really seen each other in a long time. Sometimes I wondered, if she knew I was dying, would she still abandon me like this? Though I was curious, I didn't want to tell her. When Lila and I used to watch dramas together, I always thought the characters were so foolish. What misunderstanding couldn't be cleared up by talking? But it wasn't until I was in the situation myself that I understood. Some things are truly impossible to say. I gathered my savings and allocated them. My parents had passed away in an accident a few years ago. Besides Lila, the only person I had left was my brother-in-arms, Ryan. I went to the bank to close my account. The teller tried to persuade me. You could keep it open. Opening a new account later requires a lot of documentation. It's not easy. I won't be needing it anymore. Well, you're still missing one document. At this hour, even if you brought it, we'd be closed. You probably can't get it done today. Come back tomorrow. Thinking about the little time I had left, I pleaded. Could you wait for me for half an hour? I might not be able to come back in the future. She looked at my sickly face, hesitating. I gave her a gentle smile. Yeah, I don't have long to live, so please. As I walked out of the bank, I vaguely heard a soft sob from behind me. She seemed like a kind, soft-hearted young woman. To think a stranger would feel sad for me. I silently apologized in my heart. When I got back, I looked at the house, which was now mostly empty. It had been stripped bare in just a couple of days. Everything related to me here would soon be gone. Lila came home early for once today. She seemed to have finally noticed something was wrong. Why is so much stuff missing from the house? I wanted to get new things, I said, making up a random excuse. It is time for some new things. Use this card to buy them. It has my latest bonus in it. Consider it a joint purchase from us. I suddenly said, Can you go shopping with me, Lila? I'm very busy with work. She didn't even spare me a glance, but I could hear the displeasure in her voice, as if she was blaming me for being so thoughtless. If she had just looked up at me, she might have seen the sadness overflowing in my eyes. I took a deep breath. Okay, I get it. I'll go by myself. Lila always said she was busy, but when I came out of the bank, I saw her having dinner with Noah. They were laughing and talking, the atmosphere so warm that a third person couldn't possibly fit in. I vaguely remembered that we used to be like that too. She loved shopping the most, but now she didn't even have time to go shopping with me. The excuse was so blunt it hurt. So this is what it's like to not be loved. Every little detail was a reminder that Lila didn't love me anymore. I covered my mouth and started coughing violently. Lila frowned at me. I secretly crumpled the blood-stained tissue in my hand. Why are you coughing? Were you smoking behind my back again? She scolded unhappily. Or were you drinking behind my back again? I shook my head. It wasn't true. I had always listened to Lila. I knew she was looking out for me. I had quit smoking and drinking long ago, only indulging a little when I was under a lot of stress. She knew that. But now she refused to believe me. Seeing that I was okay, she turned to leave. Lila. I suddenly grabbed her hand and asked tentatively, if I were gone one day, would you be sad? No. She looked at me with a heavy gaze. Jake, you're a grown man. Don't use such childish tactics. Do you still think this is hide and seek, like when we were kids? When we were little, Lila was very clingy. She always followed me around like a little tail. Once we were playing hide and seek, I accidentally fell asleep hiding in a tree. Lila was terrified. She cried her heart out, attracting everyone's attention. I got a scolding from both our parents. Lila, with her eyes red and swollen from crying, protectively stood in front of me. Don't hit him. She then turned and hugged me tightly. Jake, don't leave me. I'll be good. I won't cry anymore. Promise me you'll never leave me no matter what happens, okay? My eyes traced the outline of Lila's face. She was such a smiley person. Why was she frowning again? Did she remember now how scared she used to be of losing me? I think she probably couldn't remember. How could her memory be so bad? If she couldn't remember how much she used to love me, then she would also forget all the things I did that she hated, right? Okay, I get it. I nodded so she wouldn't be sad. Even a stranger would shed a tear for me. It's better that she wouldn't be sad. How could the heroine be sad for the villainous supporting character? Looking at Lila's back, I silently said goodbye. Lila was going on a business trip abroad for half a month. I had secretly arranged it with her assistant. On the day of her departure, I didn't see her off to the airport. I just handed her the suitcase at the door. Goodbye. Lila gave me a deep look, her eyes filled with a complexity I couldn't understand. In the end, she said nothing and turned to leave. It wasn't until the car was far away that I unclenched my fists, couldn't help but cough. I almost thought Lila had noticed something was wrong. I packed my luggage and looked around the home that Lila and I had decorated bit by bit. The sadness in my heart was about to overflow. Now for the final step. I woke up the smart home assistant. Alexa. Yes, master. Delete Jake's fingerprint access. Understood, master. Jake's fingerprint access has been deleted. I dragged my suitcase and left. The sky was gray and looked like it was about to rain. A cold wind blew, and I instantly got goosebumps. I instinctively reached out to hold Lila's hand, but then I remembered she was on a business trip. It seemed my body was getting worse by the day. I could barely remember things. I smiled bitterly. Even if she wasn't on a trip, Lila probably wouldn't let me hold her hand anymore. Lila had a condition that made her limbs cold, especially in winter, which was very hard for her. I was the opposite, like a little furnace. I couldn't stand seeing her look at me with those pitiful eyes, so I would always end up letting her stick her hands into my coat pockets for warmth. But the person who said she wanted me to warm her hands for a lifetime was now probably holding someone else's hand. I took one last look at the place I had lived in for several years and turned to leave. When we moved here, it was spring. Now it was early winter. Two people had become one. I returned to a small apartment I had bought. The countdown had 6 days left. I scrolled through my chat history. My friend Ryan had sent me a lot of messages. Bro, did you win the lottery? Are you sure you sent this to the right person? The action figure I've been dreaming of and the building blocks. You sent them all to me. Don't try to scam me. I'm really broke. You guessed it, I won a prize. Sharing with my bro. I realized I had become better at lying recently, even able to do it without batting an eye. Ryan was a straightforward guy and didn't notice anything was wrong with me. He was excited for a long time, and then, are you and Lila okay now? You're the man, be nicer to the girl. It's okay to give in a little. You have to spoil your girlfriend to make her cute. My typing paused for a moment, and I slowly replied. We're fine, everything's good. That's right, Lila likes you so much. I figured you two were just having a little couple spat. Just coax her a bit more, and it'll be fine. I suddenly felt a pang of sadness. Everyone knew how much Lila liked me, but the one who said she liked me first was the first to let go. At this moment, I was somewhat glad that Ryan was busy abroad and couldn't come back. If he saw me become such a petty and mean person because of the plot, he would surely find me terrifying and unfamiliar. He would probably regret being my friend. But I was destined to make him angry anyway. With Ryan's personality, if he found out I had lied to him, he would definitely want to fight me. But this time, I couldn't fight with him anymore. After finishing my chat with Ryan, a notification suddenly popped up on my phone. I bought a pile of small gifts and went to a nearby orphanage. When I was in college, I used to volunteer here regularly. After graduation, I got too busy, so I entrusted others to help deliver some things. You haven't been here in a long time, the director said with a kind smile, then asked with concern, "Why are you so thin? Did something happen?" I shook my head and said gently, "It's nothing. I just haven't had much of an appetite these past 2 days. Where are the children? I'll go see them." After distributing the gifts I bought, I pushed open a door in the corner. Julian was there as expected, quietly drawing. Even when gifts were being handed out, he didn't go out, as if nothing in the world was in his eyes. Only the paintbrush in his hand was real. I placed the gift on his desk without saying a word, just sitting on the chair next to him, watching him wield his brush. Julian had autism and rarely spoke, always immersed in his own world. His only love was drawing. When I was a volunteer, he was the first child I was responsible for. At first, he was very resistant to my presence. Later, he would allow me to sit next to him and watch him draw. After that, we just got along like this. It was our unique way of communicating. In the silent room, there was only the soft rustling of the brush against the paper. "Are you not coming back anymore?" Julian suddenly spoke, his dark eyes looking at me timidly. In all these years, this was the first time Julian had ever spoken to me on his own initiative. I nervously curled my fingers, looking into those clear eyes. My throat felt like it was blocked with cotton. I couldn't say a word. I could lie to Lila and Ryan without changing my expression, but I couldn't do it with Julian. "I know you're not coming back. My mom was like this when she left me. She bought me lots of new clothes and snacks." Seeing that I didn't speak, he continued on his own. I stroked his hair, feeling a pang of sympathy. "I'm sorry. Did you and Sister Lila get married?" Julian asked again. My hand froze. "How do you know Lila?" "She comes to see me every month, buys me little gifts. And she left a secret for you," Julian said as he took a drawing out of his drawer and handed it to me. The style of the drawing was clearly Julian's, but in the corner, there were a few lines of text. "Jake, when are you going to marry me? Actually, I don't need to live in a big house or drive a nice car. Don't push yourself so hard. As long as we work hard together, we'll have all of that. I wonder when you'll discover this secret." The handwriting was Lila's. I caressed those few lines of elegant script, my eyes welling up. Leaving the orphanage, I wandered aimlessly. Julian had given me the drawing as a farewell gift. Looking at the trash can on the side of the road, I had the impulse several times to tear off those words and throw them away, but at the last moment, I couldn't bear to do it. I stopped and looked up. I had unknowingly walked to the vicinity of our university. Without thinking, I stepped into a nearby restaurant. After a few years, the decor here was much older, but the number of students dining here was as large as ever. Lila's family was well off, and she had been spoiled since she was a child. The year she graduated and started her internship, she received her first self-earned salary. Although it was only a few $1,000s, Lila was extremely excited. She dragged me to this newly opened restaurant and grandly told me to order whatever I wanted. "Jake, I'm a person who can earn my own money now. I can support myself. You don't have to be under so much pressure." That's what she said back then. I ordered a popular signature dish at the time. "Sorry, sir, that dish is no longer on the menu." The waiter handed me a menu. "You can look at our other signature dishes. They are also very good." I was dazed for a moment. It really had been a long time. I stood up to leave, but was stopped by the restaurant manager. "Are you Jake?" I nodded blankly. "This is for you." The restaurant manager pulled out a yellowed envelope from somewhere and handed it to me. "What is this?" I hesitated, not daring to take it. "When our restaurant first opened, we had an event where you could write a letter to your future self from 3 years later," the manager said with some nostalgia. "We were originally going to mail the postcards to you after 3 years, but a few days ago, Miss Lila came and specifically found me, showed me your photo. She said if I saw you, I should give you the postcard." I remembered now. There was indeed such an event. Lila had a lively personality and was keen on trying all sorts of new and interesting things. She was very persistent about checking off all the romantic little things couples should do, and with me, she naturally wouldn't miss an event like this. I opened the envelope. There was only one sentence on the postcard. "Hello, Jake, from 3 years later. Have I become Mrs. Jake yet?" It was written by Lila. We were deeply in love at that time. After writing it, she insisted on swapping them with me, saying we would come back in 3 years to see what the other had written. I flipped the postcard over, and there was half a sentence on the back. "If not yet, then I'll wait for you a little longer." So we really were that in love once. The recent arguments and Cold Wars had almost made me forget how much we wanted to be with each other back then. I took out my phone and deleted the chat records from our university years one by one, holding back tears as I did it. Some of that past love was recorded in text. The further I scrolled up in the chat history, the more she loved me. But now she didn't anymore. Rereading those old vows now was like a series of knives stabbing into my heart. The pain was suffocating. I clutched my dull, aching chest and walked all the way back. This time, I stood in front of my high school. Lila and I had been in the same class since we were little, even desk mates. We both went to Portland High for middle and high school. I stared blankly at the familiar school in front of me. It was here that I first realized I liked Lila. Later, by a stroke of luck, we both confessed our feelings. We prepared for our exams while hiding those little adolescent feelings in our hearts. But the joy in our eyes was impossible to hide. We analyzed each other's casual words like we were doing a reading comprehension test, afraid of angering the person we liked. Jake. A familiar voice pulled me back from my thoughts. I wiped away the tears that had welled up and turned to see it was our high school homeroom teacher, Mr. Harris. I thought I was seeing things. Mr. Harris held my hand and looked at me. "What brings you back?" "I was just passing by and decided to stop in," I said gently. He teased, "Feeling nostalgic for your youth?" "I guess so." I followed Mr. Harris to his office for a while. The layout was still the same as it was many years ago. Nothing much had changed, but everyone had changed. "Where's Lila? Why didn't she come back with you?" I remember her being so lively. "You were the only one who could manage her," Mr. Harris teased me. "She's on a business trip. Aren't you two planning to get married yet?" "I've been waiting for the wedding candy for a long time. Lila promised she'd invite me to the wedding." I bit my lip, trying to act as if nothing was wrong. Soon. Back then, Mr. Harris was the first to discover that Lila and I were dating, but he didn't forcefully separate us. He just reasoned with us a lot. Thankfully, Lila and I listened to his words. We only officially got together after the college entrance exams. The moment we walked out of the exam hall, Lila boldly confessed her love for me during a press interview. I, a grown boy, was the one who blushed first. Mr. Harris looked at us with a mixture of helplessness and relief. Later, at a class dinner, Lila generously promised to invite the entire class to our wedding, with all accommodation and travel expenses covered. A young person's love is passionate and sincere. Lila turned to look at me and smiled, her eyes filled with only me. But now, we were ultimately going to break our promise to everyone. After saying goodbye to Mr. Harris, I passed by the old music room. I stopped in my tracks as if by some strange force. My 18th birthday was spent at school. To celebrate, Lila secretly pulled me into the music room and played a song for me on her guitar. A person now lives in my heart, the Jake I've always known. We tried to act out love like in the movies. You with your missing tooth couldn't even say the words right. I'm looking for that person from the story. You're the part that can't be missing. To hold Jake's hand, to be Jake's person, to guard Jake's eternity. After the song, Lila raised a bright smile, a little smug. "So, do I sing well?" I practiced for a long time. It was just a birthday, but I couldn't believe she would do so much for me. My heart was filled with emotion. I tenderly rubbed her hands. Her fingers were red from plucking the strings. She must have practiced countless times before singing it in front of me. We looked at each other, a silent understanding passing between us, and our ears turned red. Now things were different. The promises of youth were too light. I took out my phone and deleted the chat records from our 3 years of high school one by one. After leaving the school, I almost fainted on the ground. My body's reaction reminded me that I didn't have much time left. I counted. There were 3 days left. Thankfully, I had almost finished what I wanted to do. Finally, I returned to the old neighborhood. It was where I first met Lila. The weather was getting colder. I looked up. The first snow of the year should be coming soon. There weren't many people in the neighborhood, just a few walking their dogs and some children chasing each other. I stared at the slide in the corner, lost in thought. Over there, 2 children were fighting over the slide, arguing about who would go first. The scene instantly pulled me back to the past. When we were little, Lila and I were just like that, always fighting over things, always wanting to be first. Children's likes and dislikes are very obvious. When we were a few years old, Lila and I really couldn't stand each other. Who would have thought that we would end up together? Fate is sometimes so strange. I slowly moved my feet to leave, but just a few steps in, I was already out of breath. As I was walking, I was bumped hard by a person bundled up in thick clothes. I stumbled and almost fell, but the person didn't even apologize. I frowned, wanting to say something, but then I saw the person rushing towards the two children. Oh no, it's a kidnapper. He moved quickly, grabbing one of the children, and was about to run. Unexpectedly, the other child held onto his leg tightly. I don't know where I suddenly got the strength from, but I ran over and slammed into the kidnapper. He fell to the ground and started choking me with both hands. Run! I shouted with all my might, seeing the child run away. The kidnapper gave me a hard blow, got up, and was about to chase. I held onto his hand tightly, not letting him go. The commotion had grown, and many people started to come out to see what was happening. Seeing that he couldn't shake me off, the kidnapper pulled out a knife from somewhere and stabbed me fiercely. Jake! I heard a heart-wrenching scream filled with deep despair. Screams and shouts filled the air. Lying on the cold ground, I automatically blocked out all the surrounding noise, just staring blankly at the haggard person in front of me. A person who was supposed to be on a business trip abroad was now here. Lila took off her coat, wrapped me in it, and held me in her arms. Jake, she kept calling my name. Look at me, don't fall asleep. Why did this happen? This isn't right, this isn't right. She muttered softly, crying a river of tears. What wasn't right? I looked at her with a confused expression. It seemed that not only was my life force draining away, but my brain was also becoming sluggish. Lila wanted to hold me tighter, but was afraid of hurting me. I felt something cold and wet on my face. It was Lila's tears. Why was such a smiley girl crying so miserably? My heart couldn't help but ache for her. She really knew how to get to me, knowing I couldn't bear to see her cry. That little liar, Lila, didn't she say she wouldn't be sad? The sky was still a gloomy gray. They were waiting for the ambulance, and I was waiting for death. I knew that even if I was sent to the hospital, I wouldn't survive. To be able to see Lila one last time, I had no regrets. After all, the person before me was the one I had loved for my entire youth. Little snowflakes began to fall from the sky. The first snow of the year had arrived. I never thought I'd be able to see the first snow with Lila again. Before I left, we used to watch the first snow together every year. This was the last time. Let this first snow see us grow old together. Lila and I had watched so many first snows together, but we still couldn't grow old together. Maybe she really did think about having a future with me once. The snow fell harder and harder. I tremblingly reached out my hand to catch a snowflake. My eyelids were getting heavy. Jake, don't sleep. I'm begging you, I'm begging you. Lila held me helplessly, a complete mess of tears. I tried my best to open my eyes and, with my last bit of strength, wiped away her tears. The little girl looked better when she smiled. Lila held my hand tightly, trying to warm me up, but it was no use. Lila's suppressed sobs echoed. Jake, I'm begging you. Please wake up and look at me. I felt myself getting lighter and further away from Lila. I floated in midair, watching Lila hold my breathless body, crying in grief. Blood stained the ground, and the falling snowflakes were dyed a vivid red. I don't know how long I floated, but I finally felt myself land on solid ground. When I opened my eyes again, I saw a room full of people. Jake, you're awake. The person closest to me said, hugging me and crying. I sluggishly reached out and hugged her back. My throat was dry and hoarse. Mom. Looking at her graying temples, I couldn't hold back anymore, and tears fell. How could I have forgotten that I had a loving family waiting for me to come back? I thought the little system would send me to the next world. I didn't expect it to send me back to my original world. The moment I returned to my own body, all my memories came back. I had accidentally drowned before, and although I was rescued, I became a vegetable and couldn't wake up. At that time, the voice of the little system suddenly appeared in my mind. It said that as long as I completed the mission of the villainous supporting character, I could wake up again. Thinking of my loving parents and my snarky but caring older brother, I really couldn't bear to see them sad, so I agreed without a second thought. I was sent to the world where Lila existed. When I first arrived, I could still remember my mission. Later, for some reason, I forgot about these things. In our daily interactions, I naturally fell in love with Lila. Fortunately, our feelings were mutual. We had a sweet time together until Noah appeared, and I started to become sensitive and anxious. Gradually, Even I felt like a stranger to myself. The relationship between Lila and me deteriorated rapidly. Arguments and cold wars were common. I tried to find the truth behind all this. Lila might betray me, but I knew myself that wasn't me at all. Later, during another argument with Lila, I accidentally hit my head and remembered the little system. Only then did I understand that it was all due to the plot's push that we became like that. Knowing everything, I was in great pain. Perhaps in my original world, I had only been lying in a hospital bed for a few years, but in Lila's world, I also had family and friends. I had truly lived for over 20 years. I tried to change the plot, but all my attempts failed. The distance between Lila and me grew wider and wider. The facts told me not to try to change the plot with my own strength. After all, I was just a supporting male character, a ridiculously unreasonable villainous one at that. Being abandoned and given up on was the ending the author had given me. When Lila left me for Noah again, I knew I couldn't be stubborn anymore. It was time to leave. I quietly asked the system, "Why did you send me back?" I had applied to leave the world early. I thought the system would make me continue with new tasks or punish me, but I didn't expect to not only return to my original world, but also to wake up. The little system didn't answer my question. "It's better not to know," it said, and then disappeared. I suddenly felt as if I had just had a dream, but the pain in my heart was real. To avoid worrying my family, I kept everything hidden. The whole thing was too bizarre. I persisted with physical therapy and exercise every day. Now walking normally is no problem. Life has returned to normal, but sometimes late at night, I still think of Lila. Those beautiful memories always pop into my mind. Once, I even let it slip in front of my brother. My brother teased, "Are you in love? Bring your sister-in-law to meet me someday. I want to see what kind of girl can make my wooden-headed brother open up." "It's nothing like that." I brushed it off and retorted. "But I saw you kissing someone the other day. Is that my sister-in-law?" This time, it was my brother who was silent. Time passed quickly. In a blink of an eye, my brother was about to get married. I was roped into blowing up balloons for decorating the wedding room. Everyone was working enthusiastically, but when my hands were sore, I found that everyone around me had disappeared. So I was the only one working. I was fuming. A balloon burst nearby. It turned out there was another poor soul working hard. Now I felt much better. Speaking of which, I knew this person, my brother's college classmate, Sarah. She was also the bride's classmate and the bridesmaid for this wedding. I had had dinner with them a few times when I went to see my brother. After popping the balloon, Sarah looked at me helplessly, like a child who had made a mistake. Seeing her dazed look, I burst out laughing. The laugh broke the awkward atmosphere between us. We started to sit down and blow up balloons together, and the atmosphere was quite harmonious. After the wedding, I found that I often ran into Sarah. I had never noticed her presence so much before, but now it seemed like I ran into her no matter what I was doing. After a while, I started to figure things out. Sarah was pursuing me. My brother naturally saw it. This time, he finally acted like a big brother and had a talk with me. "What do you think of Sarah?" "She's all right." That was the truth. After getting to know her for a while, I really thought Sarah was nice. My personality is quite reserved, but Sarah didn't mind me being boring and always found ways to liven up the conversation. I gradually started to be able to chat with her more, and we became familiar with each other. The affection in the young girl's eyes was unconcealable, both reserved and bold. Even in her pursuit, she never made me feel uncomfortable. The whole relationship progressed gradually. We were probably in the talking stage by then. My brother hesitated and finally asked tentatively, "So have you moved on from Lila?" "Lila? Who's that?" I looked at my brother genuinely confused. The name meant nothing to me. My brother stared at me for a moment, his expression unreadable. Seeing that I wasn't joking, he sighed and waved a hand dismissively. "Never mind. Forget I said anything. I just wanted to say, if you're serious about Sarah, don't mess it up. Be faithful." Back in my room, I was still puzzled. Lila. The name echoed in my mind, but it was just a sound, hollow, and without a face or a memory attached to it. I couldn't place it at all. Shaking my head, I decided my brother must have been mistaken or thinking of someone else. He wasn't old, but he was already getting muddled. The temperature dropped and the weather got colder. I bundled up and went to meet Sarah. "So mysterious. Where are you taking me?" Sarah had a lively personality and was always full of whimsical ideas. It was never boring to be with her. When Sarah saw me, She stuck her hands into my coat. Quick, warm my hands. I'm freezing. Her hands were very cold. I indulgently watched her stick her hands into my coat, and finally, I held her hands tightly. She blushed. Sarah took me to a Riverview restaurant. The restaurant was booked, with only a violinist playing a soothing melody. The biting cold of winter and the brilliantly blooming roses created a unique kind of beauty. I turned to look at Sarah. The usually bold girl blushed and stammered. Jake, I covered her mouth. The person in front of me stared with wide eyes, full of confusion and disappointment. I pulled a rose from the side and handed it to her. Sarah, I like you. Will you be my girlfriend? I asked nervously. I had always been a quiet and reserved person since I was young. Compared to other boys, I was not like a boy at all. I didn't know how to please girls either, but no matter what, a confession like this should be initiated by me. Just then, it suddenly started to snow outside. I looked up at the fluttering snowflakes and pulled Sarah outside the restaurant. The snowflakes landed on my face, cold and refreshing. I suddenly felt a palpitation in my heart. What's wrong? Are you not feeling well? Seeing me clutch my chest, Sarah looked anxious. I shook my head. It's nothing. In just a few minutes, the ground was covered with a thin layer of snow. My hair and clothes, as well as Sarah's, were also covered in snow. I held Sarah's hand and gently kissed her forehead. Sarah, let this first snow see us grow old together. Lila's extra story. I really liked a boy named Jake. Jake's mind always seemed to be full of whimsical ideas. When I snatched his toys, he wouldn't get angry but would instead smile at me. The way he looked at me was as if I were a little cat. I couldn't stand him being like that, so I always tried to make him angry. Jake probably thought I was still little, so he told me a lot of strange things, but he forgot that I was just little, not stupid. Jake said he came here because of a system and he could go home once he finished his mission, back to his original home. I didn't really understand what that meant at the time. I just vaguely understood that Jake was going to leave. At that time, I didn't have a strong concept of leaving. I just felt a little stuffy in my chest. Jake always liked to stare into space alone. I once asked him what he was thinking about, and he always answered that he was thinking about home, about his parents, his brother, and his friends. My family and Jake's family were neighbors, so I knew his family didn't have a brother. So he was talking about another home. I really liked Jake from the first moment I saw him. I gave him all my toys and begged him to take me home with him, to his home. Jake shook his head sadly. I can't take you with me, and I don't know when I can go back. I was also very sad. When I was 5, Jake was in a car accident. He wasn't seriously injured, but he hit his head. The Jake who woke up was a bit more lively than before, and he no longer gave me all his toys. He even tried to snatch my toys, although he would still give them to me in the end. He had become a little bit bad, but Jake hadn't talked to me about the past for a long time. I asked him, "Don't you want to go home anymore? Don't you miss your brother?" "What brother do I have?" he asked me strangely. Jake had lost his memory. I was a little sad that I couldn't hear Jake's stories anymore, but I was also a little happy because this way, he wouldn't leave. After the college entrance exams, Jake and I got together. I finally got the person I liked. Jake's personality was quiet, and I was the opposite. I thought he would hate my boisterous personality, but I didn't expect us to have a mutual crush. The moment Jake agreed, I felt like my heart was about to stop beating. How could someone's casual words affect my heart so much? Every day, I wondered when Jake would marry me. I took him to check off many things that couples do. I didn't want to have any regrets when I looked back in the future, but he always seemed to think I was too high profile and would sometimes blush and tell me not to be so conspicuous. His shy look made my heart pound. That was the feeling of a crush. I wanted to announce to the world that Jake was mine alone. We went to class together, entered society together, and decorated our home together. I thought we would be happy like this forever, but then Noah appeared. Jake seemed to have great hostility towards Noah. It's okay if he doesn't like him. I won't have contact with him. But even so, Jake still became very sensitive. Even if I did nothing, he would still look at me with suspicion. We started to argue, to have cold wars. To be honest, I was really hurt. For over 20 years, no one knew Jake better than I did. He didn't talk much, had a quiet personality, but his kindness to me was not fake at all. I knew Jake didn't mean it. I tried to take him to see a doctor, but he was very resistant. Just as I was troubled, Noah came to me. After talking with Noah, I was shocked and sad. What he said about the system, about transmigration, was not unfamiliar to me. Jake had told me about it before he lost his memory. I had remembered everything Jake said. I knew he had always wanted to go home. This was Jake's long-cherished wish. In his original world, his parents and relatives were waiting for him. How could I be so selfish as to make him give up his family for me? If one day he regained his memory, would he blame me for holding him back, or would he be caught in a dilemma? That was the last thing I wanted to see. I really liked Jake. Forgive me for being selfish this one time. I was very clear that the person I liked had always been Jake, and only Jake. I tried to find a way for him to stay safely in my world, but now I found myself unconsciously saying hurtful things. He also looked at me with cold and unfamiliar eyes. The distance between us grew wider and wider. His eyes were always filled with disappointment, and my heart ached like it was being stabbed. I took the initiative to find Noah and agreed to his request. Noah didn't want to be controlled either. We acted together, pretending to follow the plot. I just hoped that in this way, Jake could return to the home he longed for. There was no perfect solution to this matter. I didn't know if what I did was right, but it was the best way I could think of. Before we completely broke up, this was the only thing I could do for him. I never dared to imagine that I would actively say such harsh words to Jake. I saw his pained and disappointed expression. I obviously liked him so much, but now I had to pretend to be indifferent. The person I liked was the one I hurt the most. In the end, finally, one day Jake seemed to give up on me. His eyes showed sadness, and he began to slowly erase his traces. Jake always thought I was too dense to notice, but he didn't know how much I liked him. I remembered everything about him. Finally, the house became empty. My heart also felt like it had a hole in it. Jake's health was getting worse and worse. I knew this was a sign that he was about to leave this world. I was so sad that I couldn't sleep all night, and I would always go to see him after he fell asleep, and then secretly come back the next day. I didn't know how much longer I could watch him like this. Jake began to say goodbye to this world. He had arranged everything. He sent me away. He went to the bank to close his account, saw the stray cat and Julian, from university to high school, and then to the neighborhood where we grew up. Step by step, he returned to the place where we first met. I didn't go on a business trip abroad. Instead, I secretly followed Jake, watching him discover my little secrets one by one. If it were before, I would have been very happy that he finally knew how much I liked him, but now I had hurt him so deeply. Those moments that I once thought were sweet would become sharp knives stabbing into his heart. I thought watching Jake become weaker and weaker was already heartbreaking enough, until I saw him lying in a pool of blood. For the first time, I knew what despair felt like. Why did this happen? Why did such an accident happen? I was in so much pain that I couldn't breathe. I could only hold him helplessly. The blood stung my eyes, my vision blurred, and my voice trembled uncontrollably. Jake looked at me calmly and wiped my tears for the last time, then gradually closed his eyes. He left me. A year has passed since Jake disappeared from my world. All the things he took away and sold, I have found them all. I have restored the house to its original state bit by bit. I pretend he's still here, but my heart is empty and can never be filled again. The Jake now should have returned to his original world. He has his loving parents and his snarky but caring brother. He should have forgotten me too. My heart hurts so much. Jake didn't know that when he regained his memory and called out the system, I heard it. I knew I was the heroine of this world. I threatened the system with my own life to send Jake back to his original world and to erase his memories of me, his memories of this world. I was so terrible to him. It's better that he doesn't remember this relationship. Jake deserves someone better. It's early winter again. The snowflakes are fluttering, and people are hurrying on the streets. I look with envy at the couples playing together. My heart starts to ache with a dull pain again. I know I will never see that familiar figure again, nor will I be able to wait for him to let me put my hands in his coat for warmth. Let this first snow see us grow old together. Snowing. Jake, do you see it?